I struggle with the state of the world. I struggle with the state of myself within the world because I was taught that the things I really wanted to do weren't viable. I was taught that they were not smart choices. And these were the only things that my brain was able to latch onto. The things I was able to teach myself and enjoy doing. And life is weird and unpredictable and will throw curveballs at you when you least expect it. So now I find myself in the privileged position of having time and energy and a fully developed frontal lobe. So with that in mind, I've decided to give those things, the things I was told I couldn't do, one final shot. And I'm just trying to be creative. I just want to do things, man. I want to live this life of stories and art and music and laughter, and I've spent a lot of years feeling bad for not being able to pick up a pen and do the things that I really want to do. So I think I've come up with sort of a structure, a system that helps me to work on the things that I really want to work on. But I don't want to tell you, I want to show you. So let me show you what a day in my life looks like and how that gets me into this sort of creative mindset that allows me to chase after these dreams, these projects, that is all that I really want to work on. I wake up at 7, and every day I do my morning pages. I think of it as my meditation time. I'll write 3 pages of stream of consciousness, and these pages help me unpack the mental load I carry around. Either that or it'll help me identify and solve any sort of creative block I may have floating around my brain. So this is very important for me and for my day, as it helps me get out of bed because my head is not as heavy anymore. And when I get up, I'll throw on my gym clothes, which will be important later, and I'll take my dog for his first walk. So once we get back to the apartment, the next thing I'll try to do is get some breakfast in me, because after this I'm going to go to the gym. And I don't like going to the gym on an empty stomach. I don't think it's a good idea. So I'll cook my breakfast, same breakfast I've been doing for the past 7 years. I'll make some coffee. And then I'll sit down with my dog to eat. He's not here right now. He's very busy over there. But I'll think about the tasks that I wrote down during morning pages, see what it is that I have to do for the rest of the day while enjoying my breakfast. I try not to wolf it down. It's just it's a good, it's the start of my day. It's a good start of my day, and I want to make it not stressful. There's a lot of pressure on this grind mindset that you always have to be producing and always have to be creating something or being something. And breakfast for me is the time where I can unplug from that and be like, I'm just gonna eat. And yes, I do think about the tasks that I have to do, but that's more of a passive sort of exercise that I do while I'm having breakfast. And so, for example, right now I'm working on a couple of projects. I can't take on many more because I only have so many hours in the day. So I'm working on a couple of projects right now. The first one, the priority, the most important one that I'm working on is this specific channel to live creatively. The whole point of the channel is to try to help people to reconnect to that creativity that they've lost because of how the world is structured. And I'm only just reconnecting to that, but I think I found a way, hopefully. And that's the whole point of this exercise, is to help people to reconnect to this thing that they've lost for A, B, or C reasons. So I'll have this project, the YouTube channel, as in the back of my head while I have breakfast. And the other project that I'm working on is I am working on a new song, and I am currently in the process of mixing it. So it's gone through several stages, writing, recording. Now I'm mixing it. Then I'm going to have to master it, and then eventually upload it and publish it, market it. And there are projects in the back. There's always projects in the back. So, for example, I have a novel that I haven't worked on for a couple of years, but there's that novel's in the back, and there's a graphic novel in the back. I finished the script for that one, but I haven't done the drawings. So there's always a project, there's always something back there. And what I try to do, because this will always generate a certain sense of guilt if I'm not working on them, if I am abandoning the projects, it always stresses me out. So in order to prevent that from happening, what I do is I have a dozen notebooks in here in the apartment, and each notebook is related to a different project. So whenever I work on a project, whenever I do some progress on a project, I'll write it down. There's extensive notes on everything. So that helps me unload the work that I would otherwise be carrying around with me in the back of my head into these notebooks, so that whenever I pick up, for example, the novel, whenever I pick it back up, I can just go to the notebook that's dedicated to that novel and find where I left off. So that's it's super helpful to do that. So right now, it's this YouTube channel, and there's the music that's more of a hobby right now, because most of my time is spent trying to create and edit this content. And there's a TikTok account that I'm trying to work on, and I still haven't found the right way to be consistent with it, but I'm getting there. So I'll still, have my breakfast, have my coffee, and think about ways of promoting the channel, or what's the next step in this whole process. And that's breakfast, basically. Are we cutting? Sip it again. Okay. After that's done, I'll take my ass to the gym, which is now easier because remember earlier when I threw on my gym clothes as soon as I got out of bed? Well, that makes it easier now to make the decision to go to the gym, because there's no additional prep work to do. So that helps me get up and go to the gym. Usually, I'll be able to work a bit before lunch when it's time for Jack's second walk. I use his second walk as a milestone marker in the day because it helps me refocus my time. Like I go, my morning tasks are done. I got my morning pages in and I went to the gym and I got my groceries. So now the real work begins. And we'll have lunch. So after I have lunch, I will sit down at my desk. And this is really important because if you're a procrastinator, if you're somebody that has problems with executive dysfunction, then you understand that sitting down anywhere else that isn't your work area is dangerous. Like, you know, it's going to be a lot harder to get started if you sit like on the couch or on the bed instead of where your work area, your work environment is supposed to be. And it doesn't really matter. Like for me, I can do it after lunch. Like I have lunch and I sit at my desk. And if you have an office job and you're having problems concentrating, focusing on the work that you need to do, then you can use this advice for that as well. But for me, it's easy since I work from home to just have lunch and sit down at the desk immediately. And again, you shouldn't sit down on your couch or your book nook or your bed or whatever. You should sit down at your working environment. And if your couch is your working environment, then that's fine. Just make sure it's not also your relaxing environment, because your brain is going to get confused with these two things. Instead of knowing that you sat down to work, it'll start questioning. It's like, we sat down. Are we doing Netflix? Are we working on what are we doing? And that's going to make it very difficult for you to work on things. So I find my working environment and I'll sit at my working environment, and then I go through the tasks of the things that I want to achieve or need to achieve during the day. So remember when I did morning pages earlier? That is going to help me figure out what it is exactly that I need to do or that I want to do right now. And since I know what I have to do and I've been flexing my creativity all day, you know, taking those walks and thinking about the projects that I want to do and keeping them in the back of my head, then it's a lot easier for my brain to know the immediate next step that I need to take, which helps with getting started on work. Now, it was Somerset Maugham, and I'm probably pronouncing it right, that said, I write only when inspiration strikes. Fortunately, it strikes every morning at 9 o'clock sharp. And that's the kind of thing that I am trying to fold into and implement into my life. That ability to summon inspiration on command. That's the one thing that I don't have, and I've been struggling with, my entire life. And that's why I have all these steps, all these structures and build-ups, that one thing triggers another, and that leads into another, to help me to get to work, to help my brain, to convince my brain, to trick my brain sometimes into remembering that this is the area where we work, and the light looks very similar to the time of the day where we work, and the sounds and the smells and everything. So my brain kind of goes, oh, okay, this is the time where we're supposed to get to work. And that pushes it over the edge so that I can actually get something done. So let me run you through a few examples of what this afternoon creative work block sort of looks like. So if I'm working on a YouTube video on that day, then it depends on the day, but it'll be either writing a script, rewriting a script, shooting some A-roll, going outside to shoot some B-roll, editing, preparing for upload, shooting a thumbnail. Any of these tasks can happen while I'm working on the YouTube video side of my projects. And these tasks usually subconsciously show up on morning pages while I'm writing, while I am journaling/meditating. It'll show up there and it'll convince me, or it'll signal to me that this is the next step that we need to do. So I'll sit down and I'll do that. When it comes to YouTube, mostly it could be editing, it could be preparing for upload, depends on the day. But that's usually what I'm working on. The coming up with ideas for the channel, that happens when I'm walking, when I'm doing the dishes, when I am visiting a museum. That's when my brain is able to go into automatic mode and sort of come up with um, things that I would like to talk about, messages that I want to get out. So just a side note here, the exercise, the journaling exercise is called morning pages, but you can really do it whenever. For me, it's preferable to do it in the morning because it helps me unload whatever it is that's weighing me down in the mornings, and that helps. And I recommend that you try it. Just try it for 3 weeks. 3 pages of stream of consciousness writing. That's it. Doesn't matter what it is. It can be anything. But just write for 3 weeks. That's it. Give it a shot. Anyway, another example. So right now, the other project that I have that I mentioned before is that I'm working on a song. So I have this Excel sheet that I created with every single step of the mixing process and the recording process and the mastering process. I am in the mixing process right now. So if I want to work, if I use this afternoon block to work on one of my songs, then I'll open up this Excel sheet and I'll see what the next step is. And that makes it a lot easier to get started because I don't have to first remember where I left off, and second, I don't have to decide what it is that I want to do next. I just follow these steps, and it makes the process a little strict, a little not flexible, but that helps with actually getting to work. So I know exactly what I need to do next for my song. I need to go in and add some plugins so that gives it this analog recording sort of flavor. And that's the next step. So whenever I want to use this afternoon creative work block to work on the song, that's what I'm going to do. I already know what I have to do. So I don't have to spend time in front of the computer going like, I don't feel inspired, so because I don't know what to do. This helps. Another example was when I was working on my novel way back when. One of the heaviest blockers was that I would have an idea and I would have this scene in my head that I was very excited to write about, but I hadn't written to that point in the book, and that was discouraging because I wanted to write that. So what I would do instead is I would give myself permission to write just that scene. And imagine that scene, and this was a very fun exercise to do back then, just creating a scene with two characters, and you don't know them. You have a vague idea of who they are. Maybe you have names, maybe you don't. And then they are in a particular location, and you put them in a scenario where they're screaming at each other for some reason. And once that starts to happen, and once you put your characters in a stressful situation, you'll end up with dialogue and events that happen almost on their own as the characters inform you of what's going on with the scene. So for example, they're screaming at each other, and at one point one of them throws some event of the past in the other one's face. So now you sort of have a backstory, and then you can start asking questions. And one of the most important questions you can ask when writing a book, and I got this from Neil Gaiman, is, and then what happened? So you write up to a point, and doesn't matter if you get blocked or you don't know how to follow up, you just ask, and then what happened? And it's almost like magic, because your characters will start talking to you, and they will start telling you what happens next. And they will start informing you who they are, what they believe in, what they like, what they don't like. Maybe one of them has an accent, maybe one of them has a birthmark, and all of those things start taking shape, and then you can ask again, and then what happened? And once you start thinking about these made-up worlds in very real terms, they'll start talking to you. And I used to do this both for the novel that I was writing and for the graphic novels that I would work on. And it's a really fun exercise
Specifically because, one, it counts as work. It doesn't matter if it's not going to make it into the final novel. These sort of exercises are writing. They are work. It's you getting to know this world and your characters. And number two, it's all very useful so that you have blocks to build on and keep going. It's momentum. Same thing with songs. If I feel like I want to write a new song, what I'll do is I'll sit down with my guitar and I'll noodle around with it for a few minutes. And usually what happens is a melody will come out and I can now put lyrics into that melody, finish the song. Or maybe I can just Taylor Swift my way through it and write an entire album in one afternoon. This has never happened to me. But usually what happens is I'll have the melody and I'll try to find a message inside me, something that I want to get out, something that I want to say, and that eventually that develops into a song. And I don't think about the technical aspects of it. I don't think about the music production aspect of it. I don't think about any of that. I just think about what I am doing in the moment, and that's a very difficult thing to do because I don't usually live in the moment. I'm either regretting the past or anxious about the future. It's just how I live.
And all of this happens in this block of time between 1 and 6:30 p.m. Because I finished lunch, I sat down, everything is ready. I can pour myself a glass of something. I can make myself coffee or get some cookies. And as soon as I do that, my brain goes like, oh, it's working time. This is the time where we have to work. And we'll get to work.
So my evenings are flexible to a certain extent in the sense that they have to have an element of reward to them. Like the evening has started, therefore I have to give myself something fun, something nice to do. And sometimes it's a video game, and sometimes it's going out to a new restaurant, and sometimes it's just watching TV or reading a book. That's not the point. The point is that it has to be fun and that I want to do it. But the most important thing is that this structure gives me the ability to work and therefore pat myself on the back and be like, good job, you did it. You can have this time to yourself to do something fun, to do something that you want to do. And that in turn gives me the permission to go to bed at 11 p.m. every night. And that in turn allows me to wake up at 7 a.m. the next morning to do this whole process all over again. And the act of repeating these things gives me the consistency, gives me discipline to work on the things that I want to work on. Listen, I will be the first person to tell you that there's probably 3 people in the world that listen to my music. Not a lot of people are watching these videos, and probably nobody is ever going to read the novel that I haven't written. But I know this is the way to get there. It's just baby steps, one after the other, to get that discipline, to get that enjoyment out of it, because I don't feel like it's work. I feel like it's something I want to do because there's something I want to say. So this is me trying to be that creative entity who does things because we have to, because my soul won't allow me to do anything else.
And I've spent so long trying to be something else. I've spent so long trying to be exactly what the world wanted me to be, and living a truth that isn't mine. And at this point, I have nothing left to lose. So I'm just gonna go full out and be as creative as I can be. And you know what? You can come along.